In the heart of Lagos, one of the biggest companies in West Africa stood tall, Bright Tech Industries, a multi-billion naira empire known for its clean energy technology and smart home devices. The building sparkled with tinted glass, shiny floors, and hundreds of staff dressed in uniforms. But behind the tall gates and glowing signboards was a secret only one man knew. The true owner of Bright Tech, Mr. David White, had a plan. He was 33 years old, one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires, but no one knew what he looked like. He had kept a low profile for years, never granting interviews, never posting pictures online. Why? Because he was tired of fake love. Every woman he met loved his money, not him. They wanted the fame, the flashy life, the cars, but not his heart. He had been used, lied to, and embarrassed by women who pretended to love him, but only wanted to enjoy his wealth. So he made a bold decision. I will pretend to be a poor cleaner in my own company, he told his trusted friend and personal assistant Henry. I want to see how people treat me when they don't know who I am. I want to find someone who will love me for me. Henry raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about this, boss? You'll be mopping floors and cleaning toilets. David smiled. That's exactly what I need. If she can love me at my lowest, she deserves me at my best. The next morning, the plan began. David cut his fine haircut low, wore cheap oversized clothes, rubber slippers, and an old cap. He covered his face with light powder to look darker and older. He even changed his voice to sound rough and broken. He was no longer Mr. David White. He was now John, the new cleaner at Bright Tech. When David arrived at the staff gate of Bright Tech Industries, he walked up to the security post with calm confidence. One of the guards looked at him closely. Yes? What are you here for? I'm the new cleaner, David replied in a deeper, slightly rough voice. The guard glanced at the ID card in his hand and pointed toward the building. Go in and report to the janitorial supervisor, first hallway on your left. David gave a small nod and entered through the gate. Inside the building, the hallways were busy with staff moving quickly from one department to another. People walked past him without a glance. Some glanced at him briefly, then looked away. No one smiled, no one greeted him. When he got to the janitorial office, he knocked and stepped in. A woman behind the desk looked up. Her name tag read, Mrs. Grace, janitorial lead. You're the new cleaner? Yes, Mom, my name is John. She gave a slight nod, not bothering to smile. Your duty area is the ground floor, hallways, lobby, and toilets. The cleaning tools are in the storage room. Get started immediately. Yes, Ma, David said. He walked over to the supply cupboard, picked up a mop, gloves, broom, and cleaning liquid and began his first shift. The work was tough. The toilets were unpleasant. The floors were dusty. He bent down, scrubbed surfaces, and mopped hallways in silence. His back began to ache. His hands stung, but he didn't complain. Day after day, David returned. Each morning, he arrived early and did his job while observing everything around him. Some workers were polite but distant. Others were cold, proud, and unkind. Most ignored him completely. But then, something different happened. One afternoon in the staff cafeteria, David was cleaning a corner when he noticed a young woman sitting alone. She was eating plain rice from a small container. Her shoes were worn and her handbag strap was patched with thread. Yet she smiled gently at one of the older cleaners nearby and offered her water. That small act of kindness caught David's attention. Her name was Linda, a junior assistant in the IT department. She was known for being quiet, respectful, and hardworking. She avoided gossip and minded her own business. As David passed her table, she looked up and smiled. Good afternoon, sir. He paused for a moment, surprised. You're talking to me? Yes, she replied. I've seen you cleaning this place every day. You work really hard, he smiled. Thank you, that's kind of you, he nodded gently. May God bless your hands. Amen, David said, and may he bless yours too. That short moment stayed in his heart all day. It was the first time anyone had shown him respect since he started his journey undercover. Later that evening, David sat in his quiet apartment, thinking about what had happened. His assistant Henry arrived with food and a cheerful greeting. How was your shift today? Henry asked. David gave a tired smile. Tough as usual, but something happened. Henry raised an eyebrow. What? I met someone. Her name is Linda. She looked me in the eye. She smiled. She spoke with respect. Do you think she's genuine? David nodded slowly. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. If she is, then her life will never be the same. David returned to Bright Tech the next morning with more curiosity than usual. He followed his cleaning routine quietly, but paid attention to every movement around the IT department. He wanted to understand more about Linda, not just how she treated him, but how she lived, how she worked, and how she treated others when no one was watching. By mid-morning, Linda passed by the hallway while chatting softly with a colleague. David paused his cleaning just to watch. She didn't notice him. Her steps were gentle, her tone calm. She didn't try to impress anyone. She looked like someone who had been through a lot, but had learned to stay strong through it all. At lunchtime, he saw her again in the cafeteria. She had brought food from home, plain jollof rice, neatly packed. He sat in a quiet corner and removed a small bottle of water from her bag. One of the office messengers walked past her, looking tired and sweaty. Without hesitation, Linda called him over and handed him half of her rice. Take it, she said. I have enough. David watched from a distance. That act confirmed what he felt the day before. She was different. He finished his tasks early and returned to the janitorial office to sign out. On his way out, he saw Linda leaving the building too. He decided to follow from a safe distance. She didn't take a car or bike. She walked. Her pace was steady, her steps light. David followed carefully, keeping far behind so she wouldn't notice. She walked about 20 minutes before reaching a quiet street filled with old apartments. She entered a two-story building that looked old but neat. David stood across the road, observing the building. So that's where she lives, he said to himself. She walks to work every day. No car, no complaints. He stood there for a while, deep in thought. This was not someone who was pretending. She wasn't putting on a show. She was humble and sincere. That evening, David met with Henry again. I followed her today, he said. Henry's eyes widened. You followed her? From a distance. She lives in a small apartment block. He walks all the way to work, no public transport. And she even gave away half of her lunch today. Henry whistled softly. Wow, that's rare. I'm going to do something for her, but quietly. He must never suspect anything yet. What do you have in mind? David leaned forward. First, I want to make sure she never goes to bed hungry again. Find out who her landlord is. Pay 6 months' rent anonymously. Henry nodded slowly. Consider it. Done. David smiled. Also, find out what she studied. I want to know why she's still at junior level in IT. The next morning, Linda walked into her compound to see her landlord standing outside with a broad smile. Good morning, sir, she greeted Linda. Good morning, my dear. I was just about to call you, she looked confused. Is everything all right? Perfect, actually. Someone just paid 6 months of your rent. Linda's eyes widened. Sorry? Who? The landlord shrugged. He didn't give a name. Said it was anonymous. Just told me to say the debt is cleared and your rent is covered until next year. Linda stood frozen for a few seconds. Are you sure? I counted the money myself. You should be thankful to your God. Someone out there is watching over you. She nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. Yes, thank you, God. As she walked to work that day, her heart felt light. For the first time in months, she didn't have to worry about rent. But she kept wondering who paid it and why. When she arrived at work, she went straight to the back hallway for her usual break. That was where she saw the cleaner again. David, still in disguise. She smiled warmly at him. Good morning, sir. Good morning, he replied. You won't believe what happened today. What is it, he asked, pretending not to know. My rent was paid 6 full months. No name, no explanation. The landlord just said it was anonymous. David looked surprised. Wow, that's amazing. God truly works in mysterious ways. She nodded, her voice cracking. I just wish I could hug the person who did it. Just to say thank you. He smiled gently. I'm sure they already know how thankful you are. And maybe one day you'll meet them. She laughed softly. Wah, wah, ha. You know, you're different too. Most people in this company don't treat cleaners like people, but you always listen. You always greet back. David gave a simple reply. It costs nothing to be kind. She nodded. That's true. Then her phone buzzed. She excused herself politely and left. David stood still for a moment. Linda, he whispered to himself. You have no idea. David had never looked forward to a workday the way he did now. Every morning he came early and started cleaning. But his heart was drawn to one thing, Linda. She had become the highlight of his day. She was always calm, always kind. She never looked down on anyone. Even though her clothes were old and her lunch was small, her heart was rich. David could see it every time she smiled. One afternoon, after a long morning of mopping the hallways, David returned to a corner of the staff cafeteria to rest. Linda came in quietly as usual and sat at her favorite spot. When she saw David alone, wiping sweat from his forehead, she walked over. You haven't eaten, she asked. David shook his head gently. Not yet. She opened her small food container and pushed it toward him. Please eat, I already had something earlier. David was shocked. No, I can't take your food, please, she insisted with a warm smile. I want you to. I don't have much, but I can share. He looked at her for a moment, his heart full. Slowly, he picked up the spoon. Thank you, Linda. You don't know what this means to me. She sat beside him quietly, watching him eat. I've seen the way people treat you, she said softly. They don't know how to be kind. But I see you every day, working harder than anyone else, never complaining. David paused. You're the only one who sees me. I see more than people think, she replied with a small laugh. They both smiled and sat in peaceful silence, but not everyone was like Linda. The company's general manager, Mr. Charles, was a proud and boastful man. He wore fine suits, carried expensive phones, and walked around like a king. Most of the staff feared him. Some women admired him for his wealth and influence, but Linda always kept her distance. That made Charles curious. One day, he called her to his office. You're a beautiful girl, Linda, he began. Thank you, sir, she replied, unsure of where the conversation was going. I've been watching you. You're different. You don't talk much, you don't beg, and you don't throw yourself at men like the others. Linda said nothing. Charles leaned back and smiled. I can give you a better life. I own this company, you know? All the cars outside, all the money that runs this place, I'm the one behind it. She looked confused. You own Bright Tech? Of course. He lied confidently. The name on the paperwork isn't mine, but I control everything. The board listens to me, the staff obey me. If you stay close to me, your life will change. I'll increase your salary, buy you better clothes, and you won't have to suffer again. Linda remained calm. Thank you, sir, but I'm not interested. Charles frowned. You think I'm lying. You don't believe I can take care of you. It's not about belief, she said gently. I'm just not interested. He laughed coldly. So you prefer to walk to work, wear secondhand clothes, and eat plain food for the rest of your life? Linda stood. It's better than pretending to love someone for their money. She walked out of the office, leaving him stunned and angry. From that day on, Charles began treating her coldly. He gave her more work than others. He spoke to her with harsh words in meetings, but Linda didn't care. She stayed strong, kept working hard, and continued to smile. David, from the corner of his world, noticed everything. He saw the way Charles looked at Linda. He saw her walk out of his office with a straight face, holding her dignity like a crown. That afternoon, while Linda was on break in the hallway, David walked up to her. Are you okay, he asked. She smiled. Yes, why? You look tired. I'm fine, she said. I just had a long day. David paused. I saw you give away your food yesterday. You didn't have to. I know, she said softly, but I wanted to. There's something peaceful about giving. It reminds me that I still have something to offer, even when life is hard. He looked at her with quiet admiration. You have more to offer than you know, she chuckled. You sound like someone who knows me better than I know myself. Maybe I do, he replied gently. She looked at him for a moment, then asked, what about you? Who are you, really? David smiled. Just a cleaner, for now. Linda nodded slowly. Well, you're a very special cleaner. As she walked back to her desk, David stood still for a while, looking after her. He whispered under his breath, and you're not just special, you're rare. It was a quiet afternoon. Most workers had gone for lunch, but Linda was at her desk, finishing some reports. Suddenly, she looked up and saw Mr. Charles, the manager, walking toward her with a proud smile on his face. He held a brand new phone in his hand, a shiny smartphone still in its box. "I notice you've been using that old phone for a long time," Charles said smoothly, placing the new one on her desk. "Take this, it's yours now. Be mine, baby." Linda froze. She looked at the phone, then at Charles. "Sir, no thank you." He raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "You don't like it, it's not about the phone. I just can't give you what you want," she said clearly. "Please, look for someone else." Charles laughed. "I don't want someone else. I want you." Linda stood. "I'm sorry, sir. Never. I'm not interested." Charles's smile disappeared. His eyes turned cold. "You poor thing. Do you know how lucky you are that I'm even talking to you?" he hissed. "You'll regret this. I will make sure you get fired." He picked up the phone and stormed out of the office. Linda stood there frozen. Her heart beat fast. Her hands trembled. She felt weak, not because she was scared of Charles, but because she didn't want to lose the only job she had worked so hard to get. Moments later, she quietly walked to the janitor area. David was mopping near the back hallway. When she saw him, she stopped and wiped her face. "Linda, what's wrong?" David asked immediately. I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice shaking. "I just want peace." David dropped the mop. "Talk to me." She took a deep breath and explained everything. How Charles tried to bribe her with a phone, how he called her baby, and how he threatened to get her fired. David clenched his fists. "He did what?" She placed her hand gently on his arm. "Please don't go to him. I know how hard it was before I got this job. I don't want to lose it. He's the manager. He can do anything." David looked into her eyes. "He crossed a line. Let me go and talk to him, please," she whispered. "He will get you sacked." But David had heard enough. Without saying another word, he turned and marched out of the hallway. Linda ran after him, but he was already heading straight to Charles's office. He knocked once and stepped in before Charles could answer. Charles looked up, surprised. "You, what do you want?" David didn't waste time. "Stay away from Linda." Charles narrowed his eyes. "Excuse me?" "I said stay away from her," David repeated louder. "Keep your dirty hands and lies far from her." Charles stood, clearly shocked. "What do you think you're talking to? Do you know who I am?" David didn't blink. "I know exactly who you are. A coward, a bully who preys on innocent girls. You think you can scare her with threats and cheap gifts? Not while I'm here." Charles laughed bitterly. "You must be mad. You're just a cleaner, a fool in slippers. How dare you come here and talk to me like this?" "You don't scare me," David said coldly. "You can't do anything to me." Charles pointed at him. "I will make sure you're out of this company by tomorrow morning. I will call the owner myself. You will be gone before the sun rises." David smiled. "You can do nothing. And soon you'll realize that, but hear this well. Stay away from Linda. If I see you near her again, you'll wish you were never born." Charles stepped back slowly. There was something strange about the confidence in David's voice. For a poor cleaner, he was too bold, too calm, too sure. "Who exactly are you?" Charles asked, confused. David didn't answer. He simply turned and walked out of the office, leaving Charles frozen, angry, and full of questions. Linda waited nervously in the hallway. When she saw David return, she rushed to him. "What happened?" she asked. "Did he do anything?" David looked at her gently. "Number, but I did. I told him to leave you alone. And he will." She looked scared. "David, what if he really gets you fired?" David smiled softly. "Let him try. He'll be the one to leave, not me." Linda looked at him strangely. There was something in his eyes that felt bigger than what she saw on the outside. Something powerful, something hidden. But she didn't ask. She simply said, "Thank you." And he replied, "I'll always protect you, no matter what it takes." After a long day at work, Linda returned to her small apartment. But when she reached her door, she stopped. Right there on the floor in front of her door was a small bouquet of flowers and a brand new phone box, neatly wrapped with a red ribbon. Tucked beneath the ribbon was a small letter. She picked it up, heart beating fast. On the front of the note, in neat handwriting, were the words, "From me to you, your secret admirer." Linda stood frozen. She looked left and right. No one was there. The corridor was quiet. She opened her door quickly, picked up the items and stepped inside. Her hands trembled as she placed them on the table. "Who would do this?" she whispered. "Why?" She didn't sleep well that night. Her mind kept thinking about the flowers, the phone, and the letter. She was not the type of girl who received surprises. He had always lived quietly, kept to herself and avoided attention. So who could be watching her now? The next morning at work, she waited until break time, then quietly walked to the back hallway, where she always found David. He was there, as usual, gently mopping the floor. "David," she called softly. He looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Linda." She stepped closer. "Something strange happened last night." David's smile faded. "What is it?" "I got home and found flowers and a phone at my door. There was a letter, too. It said, 'From me to you, your secret admirer.'" David paused, looking so surprised. "Really?" She nodded quickly. "Yes. I'm scared. I don't know who is watching me. I want to report it to the police." David dropped the mop and walked closer. "No, Linda, don't go to..." "Not yet. But I don't like it. I don't want strangers leaving things at my door." David nodded gently. "I understand, but it might not be dangerous. Maybe it's someone who really admires you quietly and is just afraid to say it." She looked at him nervously. "I'll throw the flowers and the phone away. I don't want them." "No," David said quickly. "Don't throw it away." "Then you take them," she said. "You can give the phone to someone who needs it." David smiled. "No, Linda, it's not for me. It's for you. You should keep it." She shook her head. "I'm not using it." "That's fine," he said softly. "Just keep it. And if it ever happens again, we can go to the police together." He looked at him with soft eyes. "You'll come with me?" "Of course," he said, "always." She relaxed a little, then gave a small laugh. "This is strange. I've never received gifts like this." David chuckled. "You women are lucky. Someone just buys you gifts out of nowhere. Flowers, phones, surprises." Linda laughed. "Not all women. I'm not used to this kind of thing." "Well, enjoy it," he said with a playful smile. "Some of us men are still waiting for someone to buy us ground nuts." They both laughed. For the first time that day, Linda felt calm. David's words comforted her. His presence gave her peace. And though she didn't know the sender, something inside her said she was safe. Linda had just finished arranging some files when she received a message from the receptionist. It read, "Please report to the manager's office immediately." Her heart skipped. She didn't know if it was good news or another trick from Mr. Charles. She walked slowly to his office. "Come in," Charles said when she knocked. She stepped inside, unsure of what to expect. Charles leaned back in his chair, smiling strangely. "Congratulations, Linda," he said. She blinked. "Sir? You've been promoted." Linda stared at him, confused. "Promoted? Me?" "Yes," he replied smoothly. "You've been moved to the senior technical assistant level. You'll now have a larger office, a better salary, and an official apartment and a car." Her jaw dropped. "Wait, what? Is this a joke?" Charles gave a fake laugh. "No, it's real. The boss just called me this morning and gave the order himself. He said to process everything immediately." Linda's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Oh my God. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." Without waiting for much more, she smiled brightly, turned around, and rushed out of the office with excitement. The moment the door closed behind her, Charles's smile disappeared. He banged his fist on the table. "Who is this stupid boss?" he shouted. "How can he just call and promote someone like that without asking me first?" He stood and paced his office angrily. "This Linda, there's something going on. She must be sleeping with him. The same thing she refused to give me, she's giving it to him in secret. That's why he's promoting her." He clenched his teeth, eyes full of envy and rage. "I must get her. If she doesn't give it to me willingly, I'll take it by force. She thinks she's smart. I'll show her I'm smarter." Meanwhile, Linda ran happily through the hallway, heading straight to the back area where she knew David would be cleaning. She found him wiping the glass doors. "David," she called with excitement. He turned, surprised by the joy in her voice. "Linda, you look like someone who just won a lottery." She laughed. "Guess what happened?" "What? I just got promoted." David's eyes lit up. "You what?" "Yes, I've been moved to senior assistant. I'm getting an apartment and even an official car. Can you believe it?" David smiled widely. That's amazing, Linda. I'm so happy for you. I still can't believe it myself, she said, holding his hand for a second. I've worked so hard. For once, life is smiling at me. David looked at her warmly. You deserve every bit of it and more, she smiled back. Now that I've been promoted, get ready. I'm gonna spoil you, my friend. He burst into laughter. Thank you, my best friend. I can't wait to eat your money. They both laughed, the sound echoing through the quiet hallway. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when Linda invited David to her new apartment. The place was fresh, peaceful, and well-furnished. Everything was set up nicely. When David walked in, he paused at the doorway and looked around slowly. Wow, he said. This place is so beautiful. Linda smiled. Thank you. I'm still settling in, but I'm grateful. David nodded as he took a seat. He looked calm, but deep inside he was nervous. He had been holding something in his heart for days, and now he knew the moment had come. They talked about work, laughed about random things, and shared stories from their childhood. After a while, he sat up straighter. His heart beat faster. Linda, he said gently, please don't be angry. I need to tell you something. He looked at him curiously. Okay, what is it? He looked into her eyes. I like you. Lot. I don't just like you. I love you. Linda blinked, surprised. Her expression changed slowly. You love me? David nodded. Yes. I've felt this way for a while now, but I didn't want to rush or make things awkward. I've watched how kind you are, how you treat people, how strong you are. It's not about your new position or the house or the car. It's about your heart. Linda looked down at her hands. He was quiet for a moment, then said, David, I wasn't expecting that. I know, he said softly. But I wanted you to know the truth. You're my friend, and I care about you, she said honestly. But I don't know if it's love yet. I need time to think. David nodded. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled weakly. Thank you for being honest. They spent the rest of the evening talking like old friends, but something had shifted. Linda felt the weight of his words. Her heart was now filled with questions and thoughts she hadn't prepared for. By Monday morning, Linda returned to work, still thinking about what David had said. He had barely slept all weekend. Her mind kept replaying his voice, his expression, and the feeling in her chest when he said those words, I love you. He liked David. He was different from anyone she had known, but loved. She wasn't sure yet. Later that afternoon, during her lunch break, Linda sat in the staff lounge with one of her coworkers, a lady from HR named Sheila. They weren't close friends, but they spoke from time to time. You've been quiet all morning, Sheila said. What's going on? Linda hesitated, then feeling a need to talk to someone, she whispered. A friend of mine told me he loves me. Sheila's eyes lit up. Do I know him? Linda nodded. Yes. David. Sheila blinked. David? As in the cleaner David? Linda nodded slowly. Sheila dropped her spoon. Are you serious? Yes, Linda replied, already sensing the tone in Sheila's voice. That's unexpected, Sheila said. Then she leaned closer. Let me tell you something. You need to be careful. Why? Linda asked, confused. Look at it clearly, Sheila said. You were promoted. You moved into a nice apartment. You got a car. And now, suddenly, he finds the courage to tell you he loves you. Linda frowned slightly. Sheila continued, Why, didn't he say something before? All the months he was working here, all the days you were eating plain rice and walking to work, he said nothing, but now that you're rising, he finds his voice. Linda didn't respond. My dear, you're smart. Use your head. This guy is a gold digger. Don't let his quiet face fool you. He sees your new life and wants to enjoy it. This is how they move. Linda stared at her food. Her chest felt tight. Sheila leaned back. Don't fall for it. I've seen women like you lose everything because of sweet-talking men pretending to care. Be wise. After lunch, Linda returned to her desk, but she couldn't focus. Her head was full. The words Sheila spoke kept playing over and over. Why now? Why didn't he say it before? He's a gold digger. He began to question everything. Was David sincere? Did he truly love her, or was he just being smart? waiting for the right time to enjoy the benefits of her success. The doubt hurt more than she expected. The days that followed were not easy for Linda. Her mind was full of noise. David's gentle voice saying, "I love you." The peaceful feeling of their friendship. And then Sheila's sharp warning echoing over and over, "He's a gold digger. Don't be fooled." She tried to brush it off, but the doubt refused to leave her heart. At work, David noticed something had changed. Linda no longer came to the back hallway to chat. She walked past him with a smile, but it wasn't the same smile anymore. It looked forced, careful, distant. David felt it. One afternoon, while mopping the stairs, he saw her coming down. He straightened up and greeted her. "Linda, hi." She smiled faintly. "Hello?" He waited, hoping she would stop and talk, but she didn't. She kept walking. David stood there, staring at the space she left behind. Something was wrong. He could feel it in her silence. That evening, he sat alone in his small apartment, thinking deeply, did I rush? Did I ruin our friendship? Or did someone say something to her? Meanwhile, Linda sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her house was quiet, her new life still fresh, but inside her a storm was growing. He missed David, his warmth, his calmness, his words. She wanted to believe him, but Sheila's warning had planted fear. What if he really waited for me to rise, just so he could benefit from it? What if everything he said was part of a plan? She shook her head. But he never asked for anything, she whispered to herself. He never even touched the phone or flowers I gave him. He still works like before. But the doubt remained. A few days later, during lunch, Linda found herself sitting alone in the cafeteria. Her eyes wandered to the far end where David was cleaning. He looked tired, but he was focused, just like always. She wanted to talk to him, to ask him questions, to clear her heart. But just as she stood to go to him, Mr. Charles walked in. He walked past David without looking at him, then stopped by Linda's table. "Good afternoon, Madam Promotion," he said with a smirk. "Good afternoon, sir," she replied flatly. He pulled a chair and sat without invitation. "Hope you're enjoying your new apartment." "I am, thank you." "And the car?" "Yes, sir." He leaned closer. "You know, Linda, I've been thinking." He kept quiet. "I think I judged you too quickly," Charles said. "I see now that you're special. I don't know what happened between you and the boss, but clearly he likes you. That means you're smart." Linda raised her head slowly. "Excuse me?" "I'm just saying," Charles continued. "Some girls are wise. They know how to rise quickly by choosing the right men. I respect that. And if it didn't work out with him, I'm still here." Linda stood up instantly. "I'm not interested, sir. Please respect yourself." Charles stood too. "So you prefer the cleaner? That's fine, but don't forget where you are. This company has rules. Watch your steps, Linda." She left without another word, heart pounding. Even now, she thought, he still talks like he owns everything. She walked straight to the hallway and found David placing the mop back into the cleaning cart. "David," she said gently. He turned quickly, surprised. "Linda, I'm sorry I've been distant." He smiled sadly. "I noticed." He paused, then added, Can we talk after work? I want to clear my heart." David nodded. "Yes, anytime." That evening, Linda sat across from David at a quiet cafe not far from the office. The air between them was calm but heavy with unspoken thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot," she said slowly, "about what you said." David nodded, waiting. "I believe you're sincere, I really do, but I need to be honest, too. Someone warned me." Gord responded, "You love me now because I have a house, a car, and a better job?" She said you waited until I had everything before speaking up. David was silent for a moment. "Do you believe that?" he asked. Linda looked down. "I don't want to, but it made me afraid." David leaned forward. "Linda, I've been poor all my life. I know how people can look down on you, ignore you, or use you, but with you? You treated me like I mattered when you had nothing. And I felt the same." He paused, "But I stayed quiet because I didn't want you to feel pressured. I waited because I wasn't sure if you saw me the way I saw you. When I finally spoke, it wasn't because you got a promotion. It was because I couldn't keep it inside any longer." Linda's eyes softened. I don't want your car, David continued. I don't want your apartment. I just want your heart. She looked at him for a long time. Thank you, she said. That's all I needed to hear. He smiled gently. Even if you still need time, I'll wait. Whether you love me now or later, it's okay. She reached across the table and touched his hand. I'll let my heart speak for itself. David nodded slowly. The tension in the office had calmed down a little. Linda and David were back to greeting each other like before. The air between them felt lighter again, but neither of them rushed things. Linda was still thinking, still watching, and David was giving her space. But someone else had been watching them too. Sheila, the same woman who once told Linda to avoid David. The same woman who had called him a gold digger. Sheila had noticed something she didn't expect. David had confidence, kindness, and a quiet power that even Charles didn't have. Even in his simple clothes, he stood tall. Even as a cleaner, he commanded respect without asking for it. And somehow, that began to attract her. One afternoon, while David was mopping the main reception area, Sheila walked up to him, her perfume strong and her steps deliberate. Hi, David, she said with a sweet smile. He looked up, surprised to see her. Hello. Sheila tilted her head, eyes fixed on him. You work too hard. I do what I need to do, he replied calmly. She leaned on the wall and smiled. You know, I've been watching you. David didn't say a word. You're different, she continued. Old, but handsome. Quiet, but smart. Your voice is deep and you speak with wisdom. Honestly, you're my kind of man. David stood straight. His face remained calm, but his heart was boiling. You don't even know me, he said plainly. She giggled. I know enough. I like what I see. David narrowed his eyes. So after telling Linda I'm a gold digger, now you want to come and call me your kind of man? She blinked. Excuse me, you told her I'm after her money, he said firmly. You poisoned her mind, and now you're here saying you want me? Sheila tried to smile again. Look, maybe I said too much, but that was before I really noticed you. Let's just say I've changed my mind. David chuckled dryly. You must be very stupid. Her smile disappeared. What? Yes. I said you must be very stupid, David repeated louder this time. You think I don't know the kind of woman you are. You sleep with different men in this company, including that foolish man, Charles. She froze, her eyes widened. What did you just say to me? David stepped closer. You act like a queen, but you've shared your bed with half the management staff, and now you think you can manage me? Me? You're a loose woman, Sheila. I've seen the way you flirt around this office. She was shaking now, shocked and embarrassed. I came to you with respect, she snapped. No, you came to me with cheap games, David fired back. But I'm not one of those hungry men you've fooled. Stay far away from me, Sheila's face turned red with anger. You think you're better than me, she shouted. You think you're somebody? I know who I am, David said with steady eyes. But you clearly don't know who I am, yet. She scoffed and rolled her eyes. I wanted to manage you. I actually wanted to help your miserable life, but now I see you're just a proud, dirty fool. David smiled and said, and I'd rather mop floors with dignity than sleep around to buy attention. Don't ever come near me again. She turned and stormed off, furious and humiliated. David took a deep breath, then quietly picked up his mop and continued his work like nothing had happened. But word would spread quickly, and so would whispers. Later that day, Linda found David cleaning the conference hallway. He looked tired, she said softly. He smiled. I've had an interesting day. She raised a brow. Care to tell me? Let's just say, someone who once told you I was a gold digger tried to love me today. Linda's eyes widened. Sheila? David nodded. And what did you say? I told her exactly what she needed to hear. Linda couldn't help laughing. She deserved it, she said. She's always acting like she owns everyone. Well, not this one, David said. She couldn't even afford my respect. They laughed quietly together, and for a moment it felt like all the confusion had melted away. The air between them felt honest again, like the trust was being rebuilt, one truth at a time. It was another busy Thursday morning at Bright Tech Industries. Workers were moving in and out of the building, filling the air with chatter and footsteps. But outside the front gate stood a young woman, holding a brown envelope with her certificates. She had come to look for a job. She looked nervous but hopeful. After weeks of job hunting with no luck, she had heard Bright Tech was hiring. She was invited inside for an interview and asked to wait in the manager's office. After a few minutes, Mr. Charles walked in, smiling as always, but not the kind of smile that brings comfort. He sat down, looked at her file briefly, and then leaned back in his chair. "You're very beautiful," he said slowly. "Thank you, sir," she replied softly. "I can give you this job, but first, you'll have to do something for me." She blinked. "Sir, you heard me," he said, sitting forward. "If you want this job, come and spend the night with me. After that, everything will be easy. I'll give you the best position." Her heart dropped. "No, sir," she said firmly. "I can't do that." Charles frowned immediately. "Then get out of my office. You're not ready for anything in life." She picked up her envelope and left quickly, tears filling her eyes. Outside, she stood under the sun, wiping her face. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Just when she thought her luck had changed, she met another wolf in a suit. As she stood there, David passed by, carrying a bucket. He paused when he saw her. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She looked at him and quickly wiped her face again. "Yes, I'm fine." "No, you're not," he said. "What happened?" She hesitated, then told him everything. How Charles had offered her the job in exchange for her body and how she had refused. David's eyes darkened. His chest tightened with anger. "This is not the first time," he muttered. He looked at her and said, "Come back next week on Tuesday. I will make sure someone checks your documents. If you are qualified, you'll get the job." The young woman stared at him. "What?" "Just come back," David said calmly. "Everything will be handled properly." She looked at him from head to toe, slippers, faded shirt, gloves in hand. "You?" she asked. "How can a cleaner say that?" David smiled slightly. "Sometimes the one you ignore is the one who can help you the most." She nodded slowly. "Okay, thank you." But as she walked away, her mind was racing. What does he think he is? How can a poor cleaner talk like that? Does he think I'm a fool? Why act like a hero when you have nothing? She shook her head. "I'm not coming back again. Never." But what she didn't know was that the cleaner who offered her hope was no ordinary man. Days passed, and Linda's heart grew heavier with every sunrise. She had tried to hide it, to fight it, to stay calm, but every time she saw David, her heart beat faster. Every time she heard his voice, she smiled without meaning to. Every time he looked at her, she forgot the rest of the world. She couldn't keep it in anymore. It was Friday afternoon. Most of the workers had closed for the day. The building was quiet. David was sitting alone at the back courtyard, wiping sweat from his face after cleaning the lobby. Linda walked slowly toward him. Her heart was racing, but she knew what she wanted to say. He looked up and smiled. "Hey, Linda, you're still here." She sat beside him. "David, I need to tell you something." He leaned closer, sensing something serious in her tone. "I love you," she said quietly. "I've tried to hide it, but I can't anymore. I love you. I think I've loved you from the first day I saw you. I just didn't want to rush things and make it look like I was too cheap." David's eyes softened. "And when Sheila told me bad things about you," she continued, "I almost believed her. She said you were only after my success, but thank God I listened to my heart instead. You've proven to me that love still exists." David took her hand gently. "Linda, I love you too, and I've waited so long to hear those words from you. You have no idea how happy you've made me." He smiled as tears filled her eyes. "I can't wait to make you my wife," David whispered. She blushed, her heart full. "And I can't wait to be yours." The next morning, something happened that shook the entire company. Bright Tech Industries had called a general staff meeting. All workers were told to gather in the conference hall. No one knew why. David, still dressed in his usual cleaner's clothes, walked to the front of the hall and stood by the podium. People whispered, "What's going on? Why is the cleaner standing there?" Even Mr. Charles laughed loudly from the side of the room. "Will someone get this man off the stage?" he scoffed. "We came for a company announcement, not nonsense." But just then the head of security walked in and stood behind David. Then came a surprise. The large screen on the wall lit up with the company's logo, followed by a voice recording. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mr. David White, the owner and founder of Bright Tech Industries." Gasps filled the hall. David slowly removed his cap and sunglasses. The whole room went silent. One person dropped their phone. Mr. Charles turned pale. David smiled calmly. "Yes," he said, "I am David White, and I've been working here undercover as a cleaner. I wanted to see with my own eyes how people behave when they think you have nothing. I wanted to know who truly respects others and who only respects power." Everyone stared in shock. He turned toward Charles. "Murr, Charles, your time here is over. You harassed staff, took bribes, demanded disgusting things from job applicants, and abused your position. You are fired." Effective immediately. Security guards stepped forward and took Charles away. Linda covered her mouth in shock. David looked around the room, but someone stood out. Someone who treated me like a human being when I had nothing. Someone who gave me food when I was tired, who respected me, who showed love, even when she didn't understand who I was. He turned and looked at Linda. "Linda, please come forward." She walked up slowly, trembling. David got down on one knee. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. "Will you marry me?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." The crowd cheered, claps, shouts, and even tears filled the hall. It was the most beautiful moment of her life. Months later, they got married in a beautiful ceremony. Linda walked down the aisle in a flowing white dress, smiling like never before. David stood at the altar, waiting with love in his eyes. Their story was talked about for years. The billionaire who disguised himself as a cleaner and found true love in the heart of a humble woman. They built their lives together, they ran the company side by side, and they lived happily ever after. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.